He became almost unstoppable off the block during his career. He helped Spring Arbor win that 2019 national championship, and now he coaches high school basketball at East Noble. Former Cougar great Brandon Durnell, who is with us today. Cascade Hoops Talk starts right now. Brandon Durnell will forever be known as one of the toughest guys off the block in the crossroads. He get that ball down low, and he was so strong, quick, and crafty. He was really hard to stop. He was on that 2019 national championship team with Paul Marendat, Jeff Beckman, that group. That team surprised everybody. They were picked 8th in the crossroads and ended up winning the national championship. Right out of college, he started coaching up at East Noble, just outside of Fort Wayne, which is his hometown. And he'll talk about this, but he's really enjoying it. And from all reports I've heard, he's doing a very good job up there at East Noble. Let's take a listen to Brandon Durnell. I'm so glad we got a chance to do this. There are so many good guys who played NAIA basketball are living great lives, and this is just one example. And everybody in NAIA should be proud he came out of one of our programs. Brandon Durnell, Spring Arbor basketball, East Noble head coach. Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Hey, I got Brandon Durnell. He's the head boys basketball coach up at East Noble. He's a national champion out of Spring Arbor. Brandon, thanks for taking some time to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we just had a false start, and you already told me this, but tell everybody where you're coaching and where it is.
So I am at East Noble High School. It is a 3A school, which is the second biggest division in Indiana. It is in Kendallville, Indiana, about 45 minutes north of Fort Wayne.
Okay, and are you having fun?
I am. I'm having a blast. The community's been super supportive. I have a great group of kids right now, a great group of assistants around me. It's been a really good job.
Now, did I read correctly that you're also the athletic director there?
I am the assistant athletic director.
Okay.
So
do you like that?
I'm coming from a boys soccer sectional right now.
Oh, okay. Do you enjoy that part of the job?
I do. Yeah, it's cool getting to watch some of the sports that you didn't really appreciate when you were in high school.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I could imagine. That makes sense. I want to go backwards just a little bit. You grew up in Fort Wayne there, and I was trying to remember where you went to high school. I have it here.
Homestead High School.
Okay. You went to Homestead High School there in Fort Wayne. Everybody talks, and I talked to a lot of people about this, but everybody talks Indiana high school basketball. Tell me what makes Indiana high school basketball special.
Well, honestly, it's even different now. I'm not sure it's for the better, but it's way different now than even when I played 5-6 years ago. But actually, Jesus, more than that now. But
it's been a few years.
Yeah. But honestly, you go to a Friday game and you have two good teams playing. The place is packed. And where I went to high school, it was a pretty big school. Some Division I players known for winning. It was a great culture and great program, and the place was sold out every Friday night. And not sure that can be said in other states consistently. Right. Even right now in Indiana, it's kind of going down the bad, I would say. I think a lot of live streaming and stuff has to do with that.
Right.
Friday nights, the place being packed and the media coverage that high school sports get, and specifically basketball gets, in our area in Fort Wayne and the Indy area, I don't think there's a place like Indiana when it comes to high school basketball, just with the media and the crowds.
One time when I was in Indiana, I went over to Warsaw and sat down with Matt Moore, and that gym is...
Know Matt very well.
That gym is huge. Yeah, everybody knows the Moores. They're an amazing family. I think he told me it held 5,000 people, if I'm right. And Warsaw is not that big.
In my junior year, we actually played there on a Friday night, and the place was packed. So I definitely relate to that.
So out of high school, you go up to Spring Arbor. You play for Ryan Cottingham. I think Ryan Cottingham, I've always got along really well with him. He seems like a great guy. What was he like to play for?
I'll say this. from a culture standpoint and just growing young people, I've never seen anyone do the job that he does. I cannot thank him enough for the impact he had on me. I mean, he is just a special person who just can make an impact on you that nobody else can. I mean, I've learned more about life and obviously basketball too, but basketball and life in my 4 years at Spring Arbor than any class or anything else in this world could teach me. I owe a lot to Ryan Cottingham, just from the impact he had on me in 4 years. And yes, it helped. We were super successful and had a great career, but it was so much more than basketball at Spring Arbor, and I cannot thank him enough for that.
So you played with, some of the best that have gone through the NAIA. Everybody still talks about Paul Marindet, your point guard, who everybody says he controlled the game as well as anybody they've watched.
Just from a floor general standpoint.
Yeah, just talk about him as a point guard.
Oh, he was so good. And I could sit here for an hour and talk about Paul Marindet. I mean, he's just special. And honestly, not even the most talented player you'll see, but he's just so smart. And he ended up turning himself into a super talented player, but just super smart, is way ahead of everybody when it comes to the game of basketball. And I owe him a lot too, from just a success standpoint of, teaching me how to be a mature, better basketball player. Just learning under him for a few years was super, super cool. And again, from a coaching standpoint, I could say that I learned a lot of the stuff that I do now just from listening to Paul Marindet talk basketball. He is so smart, and just from a player standpoint, he gets the job done. And we all saw that. He's tournament MVP, he's best point guard in the country, and he's just the best floor general I've seen live. And obviously I got to play right next to him, but from just a floor general point guard standpoint, there's nobody who does it better.
Whenever his name comes up and you're talking to somebody, I talked to former players that played against him. I've talked to Kyle Mangus, who played high school ball with him. The one thing they always say is he controls the pace better than anybody. What was it about his game that made him able to do that?
I think part of it is he was so physical.
Yeah, strong.
That him in the half court was better than him in transition. And that's just, he wanted to play to his strengths, and he knew he was probably going to be the strongest and the smartest player on the court at all times. And when you play in the half court, that's going to benefit you. So I think it was just him knowing what his strengths were. And again, him just being more physical and stronger than everybody else on the floor, being in the half court and controlling the game just worked to his advantage. And he is the reason why we were so successful.
There at Spring Arbor, you had that big five yourself, Paul, Jeff Beckman, who's still coaching. Now he's coaching girls basketball up there in Spring Arbor, and Tom Hamilton. One thing, if you look at that big five, because you guys played the bulk of the minutes, you guys shot. I was just looking at the 3-point, 41%, 39%, 47%, 46%. And then Beckman brought up the rear, 29%. Were you guys all just good 3-point shooters, or did something just come together that season?
I think part of it is we did spend a lot of time in the gym, and we knew, we were just talking about Paul. We knew Paul was going to draw a lot of defenders. And so we knew driving kick opportunities were going to be there. And he causes so much attention when the ball is in his hands, because he's going to make a play. He just always seemed to find the right player. And so I think Paul actually has a lot to do with that high percentage, just because he was able to draw so many defenders. And so I think a lot of that starts with Paul.
Yeah, I haven't watched you guys played. I think that's a brilliant read, because man, you guys did hit a lot of open threes. Yeah, that's for sure. You as a player, you had a terrific tournament in the championship game. You scored 32 points. You were just a sophomore that year, but you were always seen as a tough matchup. You especially later in your career, you were getting triple teamed, double teamed. What made you such a tough matchup?
I think a lot of it honestly starts I'll just tell you a little bit about my basketball story. I didn't actually really start taking basketball seriously until my sophomore year of high school.
Oh.
I played middle school basketball and I played freshman basketball. It was more during that freshman sophomore year where I decided I think I want to do this and I'm really enjoying this. And so I spent so much time in the gym knowing that I had to catch up to everybody else who had played their entire life. There's a lot of people who can account for this. I spent hours at the YMCA. I mean, me and my buddy would go to the Y after school and be there till it closed. And there was a lot of days we would do that. And whether we're just screwing around maybe a little bit or shooting baskets or playing 5-on-5, I was in the gym a lot those few years in high school. And I think that helped me catch up to all those players who had been taking it serious or playing basketball their entire life. And it just translated to college. I had a pretty good junior and senior year of high school, but I still felt like I had a lot more room to grow in my game. Mm-hmm. And that freshman year was super eye-opening for me at Spring Arbor because I was coming off the bench and I started, I think, as the 6th or 7th man. And honestly, that freshman year, as the year went on, I ended up going down the rotation. I got to like 8, 9, 10. My minutes were super small. And it was mid-freshman year, I realized, man, I need to really, again, I'm getting to the point, I need to start catching back up and outworking everybody. And so by the end of that freshman year, I actually got into the starting lineup. So that freshman, sophomore year, I knew that there were starting spots available, and I thought I was going to be a core piece of that. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't a disappointment. And that summer was probably the hardest I had ever worked. I took my diet seriously. I spent hours in the weight room that summer. I spent hours in the gym. I think that's when I kind of really flipped the script. I became more versatile. I could handle it a little better. I could shoot a little better. And I think that carried into that sophomore year where it started to click and translate to the college level.
Brandon, I want to ask you about 2 moments in your Spring Arbor career. One of them is obviously the championship, and we'll save that for second. But one of the first stories I usually think about, and I tell it about you all the time, you were a senior, and as you remember, you were triple teamed your whole senior year. I mean, just all year because some guys had graduated. And I don't remember who you were playing, but I think you were on the road, tight game, all night long. You had 3 guys hanging on you, and you were just scoring the ball. You were just piling up the points. And I think it was at the end of the second overtime, right at the end of the game, you got the ball, and somehow the lane just opened up, and you got right to the rim, and you just completely annihilated and missed the bunny as the buzzer went off. Do you remember that?
I do.
I'm sorry. I after getting hanged on by 3-4 guys all night long, making the toughest shots you could imagine. I know players remember everything. Who were you guys playing?
I think it was Olivet.
Okay, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Because I think that was a 2 or 3 overtime game.
Yeah, I think it was 3, and it was in the second overtime you missed that. You know, how tiring was that when guys you just were up again? They would just come at you in waves.
Honestly, that year was super interesting because I had always played with a really, like, one of the most talented guards. Whether it was high school, I played with a Division I point guard, and then Paul Marendet, who was one of the best point guards in the country, if not the best. And so I honestly was not used to that. I was always used to being that second option. And so that year was super challenging. I loved it. I had fun. I loved the teammates I played with. But again, it was an experience for sure, being doubled or triple teamed that whole year. But again, it's part of it. I enjoyed that. COVID kind of screwed that year up too a little bit. We didn't get a full season, which was super sad. And we ended up losing some players because of that didn't come back that were supposed to. So honestly, it was cool being able to go into a role where I knew it was going to be my last year and I didn't know how many games we were going to play, but just kind of pouring into young guys. And now actually some of those young guys, became one of the better friends I had in my whole experience, just because it was that year where we got super close because it was a lot of adversity with COVID. Let's just put it that way. I mean,
I know. Yeah.
Especially in Michigan where there was a lot of rules and regulations. So that year was super challenging, but I didn't dislike it at all because I had a ton of fun that year with a lot of good teams.
Well, Brandon, I can have a clear conscience now when I tell that story,
Yeah.
because now I can say I even poked him about it. But
Yeah.
anyway, enough years have passed, but I'm sorry. That's my favorite Brandon Durnell story.
That's unfortunate.
Well, you know what? The other Brandon Darnell story also has a bad ending because you played Oregon Tech and beat them for the national championship.
Yeah.
But in that, I don't remember what you ended up with in the first half, 20-something points, 22 points, something like that. That was the first time I really got to watch you and see what a tough matchup you were. And what did that feel like in that first half? You were unstoppable. Here you could almost see a national championship. And I remember watching the joy in your face during that first half.
It's, again, the most special moment I've had because the work translated, and I ended up with 32 that night.
Yes.
And
yes, you did. I remember.
It's just the whole work I put in over those years, catching up to all those players that played their whole life. There's clips of me I fell to the ground after the buzzer went off when we won. It's just because, one, all the work we put in as a team and just proving everybody wrong. We were predicted eighth in our conference that year and end up becoming the national champions. It's just there was a ton of work and grind as a team, and then also individually just knowing I had to prove a lot of people wrong. I put in a lot of hours to do it, and when that buzzer went off, everything just broke.
Yeah.
And it's the most special moment I've had in my life. It really was.
And that'll be with you for your entire life, and those teammates as well. I want to move forward to East Noble. So you got that job pretty close to right after you graduated, didn't you?
I actually was still finishing classes when I accepted the position.
Okay, that's pretty close to, yeah. From what I understand, talking to people, it was kind of a good timing thing. It opened up, you were there, you were in the right place, and it seems to have worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
How old were you when you took it then?
I was 21.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually am considered the youngest in Indiana history outside of one guy during one of the world wars where all the people above 18 were in the war. So I think there was a 17-year-old that had to coach a team one time. But
oh, okay. Well, that's pretty interesting though. So
yeah. It's just it fell in my. I had an AAU kid that was at East Noble, and the job opened up. It actually had been open for a few weeks, and I never thought in a million years I was going to apply for it. And their parents came up to me in a restaurant after an AAU game. They go, "Why don't you just put your name in, see what happens?" And I'm like, you know what? Why not? I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life right now. There was talks of me maybe being a Crossroads League assistant somewhere, but I ended up applying, and the interview actually went really well, and here I am. So I am so glad it happened because, again, I've made lifelong friends. There's obviously been some struggles here in my first 3 years, but we feel like our program's moving. We're supposed to have a really good team this year, and our youth program's in a great spot. So I actually am in a super great place right now that's been super supportive, and I can't thank everyone enough for that.
So Brandon, when you first took that job, you first started working with the guys you had obviously played, Indiana high school basketball yourself. You played on a national championship NAIA team, and now you were back and you were what surprised you, and what things did you find that were easier for you and maybe a little bit tougher that you're like, man, I didn't expect that?
Well, the toughest thing is I want to check into the game sometimes. I think that's been the toughest thing is instead of being able to do it for them, I have to find a way to articulate and teach. And I think my first few years, I really struggled with that. I think I'm getting better at it as you do it more. But I think those first 2 years of me just wanting to check in and do it for them, yeah, that was a challenge at the beginning. But obviously the things that you don't know, the fundraising, the organization when it comes to booster clubs and scheduling practices and doing the youth program, it's stuff you have no idea your high school coaches do until you're actually doing it. And another person I can't thank enough is my high school coach, Chris Johnson, has been unbelievable mentor to me in these first 3 years. He's one of the best coaches the state's ever seen at Homestead. He's produced so many good players, and just the relationship we've continued to have, even after I'm done playing. He's another reason I'm where I am at right now. I know he was a big part in the references and the calling to help me get the job, and he's another one I can't thank enough. He's taught me so much.
You were talking about knowing Matt Moore pretty well. What is the coaching fraternity like in your area?
Oh, it's unbelievable. The reason I know Matt, I've got to know Matt so well, not only because Scott, Moore, and Grace, but we actually go down to a think tank, a coaches clinic, and it's coaches from all around the state, and it's different formatted than your normal coaches clinic where you're just sitting in a bleacher and listening to guest speakers. You're at a round table with some of the best coaches in the state, and you're just listening to them and talking basketball like we're doing right now. And there's 18 to 20 guys at this round table, and there may be a starting topic, but it just goes in places you'd never know, and you're just writing notes and listening to some of the best minds. J.R. Holmes from Bloomington South, who has the record of Indiana wins. I think it's like, I don't want to get the number wrong, but it's
a lot.
A lot. So listening to him talk is just, and you're just in awe of the basketball minds you're sitting around. So I would say that's another special part. We talk about what makes Indiana high school basketball so special. There are some really good coaches coaching high school basketball, that there's coaches that could go and do a college program right now, no question. And just being able once a year and a couple times a year, because those guys maintain their connection. You can reach out to them anytime. I know I could text Matt Moore and he could help me with anything. And just knowing that all the high school coaches in the state are mostly willing to help each other makes it special as well.
What about the greater basketball community, people in the state of Indiana that put on clinics, not only with basketball, but, building men, that kind of thing? What about that? Not exactly the coaches, but just basketball people around the state. Is that a tight family?
Oh, for sure. And I think Fort Wayne does a pretty good job of this. We can talk about AAU basketball, and you can go down to Indianapolis with this as well. I think a lot of us do a good job of the high school AAU, and I'm a guy who does both, but high school and AAU connecting, and then also trainers too. Trainers are super popular right now in Fort Wayne. I think all three of those areas of basketball expertise, if you say, are working really well together.
Oh, that's good to hear.
And so I think that's another reason that Indiana is special. You have trainers working with AAU guys, working with high school guys, and we're trying to make this the best basketball state in the United States, and not only the United States, and the whole world. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. I do. I love our community, and obviously there's things we all can do better, but the Fort Wayne basketball community has a ton of good people right now.
Yeah, that's good. One of the criticisms you hear often, and this, you've probably heard this, is that in some places there's that wall between the high school coach and the AAU coach, and the communication isn't very good. And that's good to hear that you guys work on that.
No, for sure.
A couple minutes ago, you were saying that the team is coming on. You feel like it's going to be a pretty good team this year. What were the things, as you started building it, what were the things you found that you needed to get in place because you can't build a program overnight? What things did you have to put in place to get to where you are today?
Well, one, I actually like playing a style that's a little different than Spring Arbor. I want to play up and down. I know we in Spring Arbor were one of the slowest teams in the country, and we wanted to execute in the half court. I'm a guy who wants to play like Oregon Tech, up and down and try and score in the first 10 seconds. So just establishing that culture of we want to play a fun brand of basketball that a lot of players want to be a part of. And I think my first 2 years, we did a good job of focusing on the offensive end. But the other side of that is we struggled because we weren't very good defensively. So I actually brought a defensive mind in. Josh Trish, a defensive mind, in to help me. And he won a state championship on the girls' side. He's a graduate from East Noble. And he ended up becoming my assistant, and it's made a world of difference. So I can just focus on the offensive side of the ball, and I just give him the defense because I was never a great defender. I never liked teaching defense. I was lucky I played with 4 really good defenders that could hide me in college. And so I can literally just focus on what I love to do, and that's the offensive side of the ball while he does defense.
When you're in practice and the guys aren't listening, do you ever say, hey, there's only one guy on this floor who has a national championship ring?
No.
So it sounds like things are going pretty well. That's really, really good to hear. Do you ever get back and able to, like Fort Wayne has Indiana Tech, St. Francis is up there. Do you ever, or Huntington's around there? You ever able to go over and watch some NAIA games?
Oh, I do it all the time. Last year was probably the first year I hadn't gotten to as many as I wanted to, but since I've graduated, I've tried to stay in the NAIA world as much as possible. I'm very close with the Indiana Tech coach, Ted Albert.
Yeah.
I know lacrosse very well from St. Francis, so I have a good relationship with those guys. Corey Alford from Huntington, we play in their shootout every summer.
Oh, great.
Their
okay.
high school team camp. So I found a way to maintain those relationships. And yes, I try and check out a few games. I go to Spring Arbor once or twice a year. I actually was just there last weekend. We had our alumni game.
I heard that. How did that go? Nobody got hurt, I hope.
No one got hurt. We got to start our whole national championship team, and we were feeling good. I think we were up 5 in the first 5 minutes, and then the age kicked in a little bit, and their conditioning was way better than ours, and they whooped on us in the second half. But
I talked to Coach Cottingham the other day, and the Crossroads is tough, but I think they're going to be pretty good this year.
I do. Gabe is a monster.
Yeah.
He has to be one of the best players in the country. Again, I don't know the NAIA world right now as much as I used to, like across the nation, but I don't see a much more dominant player than him. He's super special. And then I know Eli White very well. He's been dealing with injuries for a few years. I know he's excited to get back on the floor. He was one of the freshman candidates for freshman of the year in the league. And now he's going to get back and healthy. I know he's going to play a huge role and be a leader for them. I think they're going to be super fun to watch. They got a lot of young talent and mixed with some good senior leadership.
Well, Brandon, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking a few minutes tonight. So people don't know this, but Brandon and I had to go back and forth on time a little bit. It's he made me stay up till 8 or 9. What is it, 2 a.m. there?
No, it's 9 here.
But no, I appreciate you taking the time, and it sounds like you're doing really well. I know a lot of people, I get asked a lot about what you're doing, and hopefully they'll be able to listen to this.
Yes, thank you so much.
That's Brandon Durnell, East Noble High School former national champion at Spring. Not a former national champion, you were a national champion at Spring Arbor University. Thanks, Brandon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Also, please like and subscribe this show wherever you watch or listen to it. It helps a lot. And if you have a question you'd like answered on the show, just send me a note at cascadehoopstalk@gmail.com or just shoot me a DM on Twitter. I hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy your day. We'll see you next time. Yours truly, Billy D. Thank you very much for supporting our podcast. Please like and subscribe. Get out to your local NAIA school because NAIA basketball is the best entertainment value in America.